Hello, and welcome back to our podcast, Flower Farming in New Zealand, where we dig into the detail of growing beautiful blooms here in Aotearoa. I'm your host, Jo Robinson, a flower farmer, a flower lover, and a creator of floral works. I'm keen to encourage the growing, buying, selling, and the use of our gorgeous local and seasonal flowers. This season, the podcast is brought to you by United Flower Growers, or as it's known in the trade, UFG. Talk to UFG today about buying or selling your flowers through their organisation. Good morning and welcome. Let me start today's episode by briefly introducing my two guests. Both are here today to talk about Farmstrong. Amber is a farmer and a Farmstrong ambassador, and Gerard designed and set up Farmstrong. Welcome to you both.
Great to be here, Jo.
Thanks, Gerard.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Amber, I am in awe of all you have achieved. But before we get you to introduce yourself and explain how you put Farmstrong into practice, Gerard, can you introduce yourself to start with and tell our audience more about what Farmstrong actually is?
Yes, I've been lucky enough to be involved with Farmstrong right from the very beginning. It's a program that's really promoting the things that you can do to keep yourself well so you can perform at your best. And we started Farmstrong and launched in 2015, so we've been going for 10 years. And the audience is farmers and growers, because the need to actually perform at your best as regularly as possible is really important to run a successful business. And what we saw that when farmers and growers got together, they talked about all sorts of wonderful and important things about how to run a successful business. But we felt the thing that was needed to be added into the mix was actually also talking about actually how you looked after yourself, given that there's lots of ups and downs in the sector. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of change. And the most important asset in any business is the people who work in it. And we really felt that the really practical wisdom and the good science that's shared among farmers and growers around how they grow great flowers and, how they sell them to market. And those are all really important things. But we also wanted to have a program that shared the science around how you look after yourself and to also release the practical wisdom on this topic that sits within farmers and growers, because there's a lot of really fantastic practical insights and wisdom. And I know that Amber's going to share some of that. So we really wanted a program that was going to shed a light and have a focus on that particular topic alongside all those other fantastic topics that farmers and growers share when they get together.
I love that idea, though, that it's just to get people to not talk about their business, but really to talk about themselves and have a chance to release some of that stress, tension, or even just get the monkey off your back, to put it in, simple terms.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the key skills that we promote is actually listening skills, because really to have an effective conversation where someone is feeling like they've been listened to or been able to really... Yeah, and also maybe to understand, particularly if they're feeling a bit overwhelmed with everything's happening. Sometimes we need to just have someone who's a good listener to work through what's actually going on for us and actually what the problems are that will work for us without them having to think they have to solve our problem. We just need to be listened to. So that's one of the skills that we promote within Farmstrong is how do you be a good listener that you can help someone else.
So what are the other skills that you would include in your toolbox for Farmstrong? You said listening. What else?
If you looked at sort of quite a high level how the topics group themselves, there's sort of the real basics around just looking after your physical well-being, particularly when you're under the pump a lot of time. And some of those are just basic things like, eating well, sleeping well, getting good movement and exercise. But really, I think that the bit that we've focused a lot on was what are some of those mental skills that help you deal with stresses and pressures and really work when you're under the pump that can keep you going in an upward spiral rather than a downward spiral. And that you can build into your life on a small habit basis, that they just become sort of routine ways of how you deal with the uncertainty. And so really we do promote topics from the neuroscience around how humans perform well at their best. And we're really lucky to have some of the champions, like Amber and ambassadors who come on board. And so again, we draw on a lot of analogies from successful businesses but also from sporting analogy, because actually, so Samuel Whitelock's our ambassador, and he can really communicate what he's learned through, high pressure sport around some of those mental skills that are totally relevant for the level of stress and pressure that farmers and growers put themselves under.
And they do, just keeping up with the day-to-day running of the business and juggling life and the farm, whatever kind of farm it is. It doesn't matter. It's still a farm, and it's still prone to all the same issues you talked about, the weather, the market, everything else that happens in life. That's fantastic. Thanks, Gerard. I appreciate that. But Amber, now that our audience sort of know what Farmstrong is, can you tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got to where you are, both in farming and in life, if you want to share that, and how you got involved in Farmstrong?
Yeah, I've had, I guess, a diversified past. I actually started in the fashion industry. My husband's a fourth-generation dairy farmer, and I met him when I was working for Karen Walker. Feels like a million years ago now. So I've lived on farm for a good 18 years and became a full-time dairy farmer in 2018 when we had our first son, Oliver. And before then, I was part-time dairy farmer, full-time corporate executive, because we were share milking at the same time. So I had been involved in the industry for quite some time before I became full-time. It's a decision that I will never regret.
You can see me here. I'm juggling.
Yeah.
I am juggling. That is so much for you to handle. Apart from the complete change in lifestyle, to then take on full-time dairy farming with a baby. Wow.
I look back at it now and I think, that's when that transition from fashion to farming, although it was the best decision we could have made. It was challenging. Mentally, I really struggled with it. I'd been traveling the world. I worked in town. I had the best of both worlds where I was able to then come home, help on the farm, do what this is pre-kids. We would work on the farm together and then go back to, I guess, my other life. I lived two lives. And then to go from, I guess, that corporate script to farming really tested me mentally. And I had a challenging first pregnancy, which was a great introduction to motherhood. But yes, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I think I learned a lot of lessons from that transition. It's been fantastic. I wouldn't change it for the world. The primary sector is given us so much, and the people that are within the primary sector are just salt of the earth. I just have so much respect and admiration for everybody for what they do on farm and in their community. I got involved in Farmstrong in 2019, I think it was, and I had made the decision through my mental challenges. I was like, right, I've made the decision. I need to get myself out of this, and I need to start getting myself involved more heavily within the industry and starting to talk to people. I guess it comes back to those 5 ways of wellbeing. I needed connection. I needed to make sure that I was staying active and I was learning. And that's how I got involved in Farmstrong. It was actually through Kellogg. I met someone and I guess heard my story. And I thought, well, no one likes talking about themselves, and farmers definitely don't like to bring the attention to them. But if I can tell my story, and I've got many more since then that we've been through in the last however many years, 8 years, through burglaries and weather events and burnout. If that story can help somebody, then that's all I need to do.
That's absolutely fantastic. It's a lovely attitude, and it shows some of your inner strength that you could recognise that you were at the point that you needed to take a step for your mental health. And I think that's the hardest thing for all of us to do. And I don't know, Gerard, whether you have anything to say about that. Taking that first step is the hardest.
If you look at what our most important asset in life, it's actually how we manage our thoughts and emotions and then what we do. And so we do need to reframe how we think about looking after that most important asset. I think we've made a lot of progress in the physical health world, around eating well and stretching and maybe keeping your body in good condition. Now we just need to apply that same, I think, cultural shift to the mind-body connection and just bring the mind side of it into that same positive asset way of thinking.
Amber, what do you see as the business benefits of investing in your well-being?
Oh, look, there's just so many. I think when Fraser and I, at the beginning of our share milking journey, and we brought on a team, we got to a bigger herd, we moved, had more kids. If we can show up our best and we can look after ourselves, both physically and mentally, then we're giving our best to our team. We can lead by example, and if we can show them what we're doing and also have that same care and love and respect for them as well, because we can't do what we do without the team and the people behind us. We need to look after them. So it means looking after ourselves and then being able to give those strong Farmstrong values to our team as well, and making sure we're kind of applying that to our farm business. It is a mindset and it's a commitment, because when you're farming, I guess coming from a corporate background, you have an HR department. You have all the departments that do this for you, right? You don't have that on farm. You are everything. You are HR. You are the accountant. You're the vet.
And if you're a flower farmer, you're the marketing expert, and you're the accountant,
Exactly.
and you're the bucket cleaner, and you're the seed sower and everything else. So a lot of the flower farmers that I deal with, they either work on their own or with a close family member, or maybe they have a part-timer. And that would be the majority of the people that I know. So we just have to think about our teams differently. Our teams are either ourself and our support person, or ourself and our part-timer, but we're still a team, and we need to be thinking about sharing the asset care and your other well-beings that you talk about through Farmstrong. Do you agree? Can you operate in a Farmstrong way if you work on your own?
I 100% believe so. I think more so when you are working in isolation, or you do have all of, I guess, your entire business on your shoulders, and you don't have, I guess, team to bounce off. The Farmstrong values then become so important. It's rallying around that community around you of who could be, I guess, your extended team. Can I go to connect with? How am I getting active? Am I getting off farm, or I guess, out of the business, and connecting with people within the community to break up the day and have people there to support you? So hugely, hugely valuable for a singles perspective. Yeah.
You agree with that, Gerard?
I think just amplifying what Amber said, when we were designing Farmstrong, we really dealt with the reality that there's a lot of owner-operators and couples that run agriculture and horticulture businesses, and they are part of supply chains. So the way that we wanted to take some of these practical ideas was where to people were living their busy lives, not expecting that they would have time to come and find it from us. So we're starting to socialise where we call it a good for business program. And so where, people in their business life are going to for information that they need to run their business, that's where we're putting the Farmstrong type ideas. Our call to action is find out what works for you and lock it in. But really, we saw that there was a need, particularly, I think, within that small to medium business, where people are just busy running their businesses on a daily basis. How could we actually get some of these ideas to where people are living their lives for the benefit of their own learning and what they could practically apply when they're under, stress and pressure?
So it's for the benefit, though, of their business as well as their own health, isn't it? And I think that's the way. In a lot of cases, you can sell it, is the wrong term, but you can promote it to particularly a very small business, because they choose to have a constrained time frame. They are choosing to be busy on working in the business rather than on their own care.
I agree. That's our sort of call to action. Really, if you're personally at risk, then your business is at risk. If you're around your own, personal well-being and sustainability, and even if you're not in a great space, you're probably not going to be making very good business decisions that might actually set you back. And that's just common sense. All we're wanting farmers and growers to think about is make time as part of your business model to also be planning for how you look after yourself and your team, as well as how you look after your soil and your produce and your supply chains, and your market. Amber, I know you'll have some thoughts on that.
It's a probably one that takes some time, but it's really understanding that you in your business and on your farm, you are the biggest asset. And you always look after the biggest assets on farm. If you used to ask us before, what's your biggest asset on farm, we would say it's the herd. We can't look after our herd. They can't survive if we're not at our best. Fraser and myself and our incredible team, we are the biggest asset to this farm. If we're not looking after ourselves, we can't farm our best. And our herd, our farm, our business needs us to be at our best. So you're really needing to look after yourself, making time and priority for that.
What ways are you proactive about your health and well-being on farm?
There's a few different ways. We definitely prioritise sport and activity. So we've just come through calving. We're at the back end of spring calving, so I think we've got 15 left to go. And it's a really busy time on farm for us, so calving is the priority. But we make sure during calving we take time to get off farm. We are at our kids' rugby every Thursday. Fraser absolutely loves coaching the boys, and it's his time of the week where he gets off. It's 4:30, so it's, it's kind of middle to end of milking, depending on our day. But that's a priority for him. He gets off, picks the kids up, coaches them, and then it's hanging out at the rugby club with his mates, having a yarn. That's not farming, or it is, depending on. But, you're just in a different environment. So it's a huge priority for us in a very busy time of year. Same with me. I play netball. So that priority and that focus is getting me to training and getting me to my game. It's not easy. You've got to plan and hustle, but it's worth it because we need that for us. We need to stay active. It is, for me especially, very connected to my mental state. I'm better in terms of my mental clarity and decision making and just general mindset when I am active. We also take a moment to take notice of what's going on around you, and taking a moment, like you can be in any type of farming or any part of the primary sector, there's some very stressful points within the seasons. And even in a calm part of the season, there can always be stressful things happening. So it's really just taking notice of those people around you, and just, if our team are down, we know, and it's just saying, like, are you okay? Do you need, an early finish or a late start? Like, what can we do? Is there, it's just understanding that sometimes people could be stuck in their own minds or have something going on. And sometimes it's nice to just take notice of what's going on around you to help other people. So we make sure that we are reaching out to friends. If we haven't heard from them for a while, especially during busy times of the year, just being like, hey, how's it going? Because sometimes you can also think when things are going really badly that it's just you, but actually probably everyone is experiencing the exactly same thing, whether it's weather or whatever it could be. So we do try to make sure we're just not focusing on ourselves all the time, and we're taking notice of those people around us. I've done Agri Women's Development Escalator recently, which was a fantastic governance and leadership course. That's great for me. I need that kind of learning. I've done Kellogg, going to events. Fraser loves going to discussion group, and kind of, again, it hits connection as well. But learning about what other people are doing keeps you inspired. We do pop on the Farmstrong website quite regularly and bring in the resources. It's always a really good reminder. Like, as much as we have it quite ingrained in us, it's always great to pop onto the website and just have some refreshments of, oh, that's right, we should be doing this. Or, oh, yeah, that's a good tool. There's so many amazing stories. So that's what we do in terms of making sure we, stay farm strong. Giving's quite a big one as well. We give a lot to our community. So I'm heavily involved in sponsoring events and setting things up for the day. We're involved in our rugby club, our netball club, catchment groups, bringing people together. Our farm also does a few donations to food banks and things like that. So it's just an opportunity to give back. We're fortunate to be where we're at. We work hard like everybody, but if we have an opportunity to give to others, then that's fantastic, and it fills the cup as well.
Let's take a moment to hear from our sponsors. Season 2 of this podcast is proudly sponsored by UFG, New Zealand's largest flower wholesaler. While UFG is best known for its in-house auctions in Auckland, Wellington and Christchurch, it operates other platforms to ensure growers connect with the right buyers and buyers with the best flowers. Listen to our sponsors episode of the podcast and check out the UFG website to learn about the innovative remote online flower auctioning system and the virtual wholesale platform. And if you need another option, there are 4 on-site wholesale outlets based in Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch and Invercargill. UFG, connecting growers with the right buyers and buyers with the best flowers. Hey petals, and just like that, we're back into today's conversation. You have so much going on and you're involved in so many different things there. What mental skills do you use to retain focus? And you use that word quite a bit, focus. So I think it must be in your mindset that you need to think about focus. But what mental skills do you use to retain focus so that you do make good decisions?
That's a really great question. And I get asked a lot how I do what I do. And I always think, don't look at me and think I have everything together, because there's a lot of times I don't. I'm involved in many things. I do a bit of travel I'm very fortunate to do what I do as well. And there is days where it goes swimmingly and there is days where it doesn't. If you asked me this question probably maybe 8 years ago, I would have been a hot mess. Ask me this question now and I've probably really understood my strengths and my weaknesses. I understand what I need to function. When we talk about that word focus, I'm very clear on what I have available on my calendar. I've become quite good at saying no, which was a word that didn't kind of sit within my vocabulary. I used to just say yes to everything, and someone gave me a great analogy. If you had a coat rack and you kept putting hats on it, what's going to happen when you feel there's no space for more hats? It just all falls apart, and that's kind of what you're doing to yourself. I was like, oh, actually, so I think about that. I visually see that coat rack. Am I putting too much on this coat rack? Is it going to fall apart? I do make sure that I have boundaries, and they change. Like, they're not boundaries that are consistent. So during calving, my boundaries change. So I change my patterns and I change my expectations. I change my boundaries as the year changes. In the last 3 months, the farm, the kids, that's all I'm focusing on. There's no room for anything else.
That was a really lovely explanation there. You change your expectations and your boundaries depending on the season. And I think that's a fantastic thing to have front of mind for any seasonal grower. And I will pinpoint flower farmers here because you go through so many peaks and troughs of growing and selling. But just that expectation and those boundaries, and the fact that you are prepared to set boundaries, I think is a massive step to protect your mental health and that important asset. I'm very impressed. Shall we put it that way, Amber? I love what you're saying. So then, if it gets to the point where the expectations can't be met or the boundaries have been breached, how do you manage the stress and the pressure that puts on you? I have a glass of wine.
Yeah, it's a great question. It always helps.
Yes.
I have a gin, but
okay.
Look, I mean, that's life too. So sometimes things don't go to plan, and that's the reality of life. What Fraser and I have got really good at doing is just stopping and having a conversation and being like, okay, this has got quite out of control, but here we are. What are we going to do about it? We can't put our head in the sand and just keep going. Where can we flex? Where does he have capacity to take on? Where do I have capacity to take on? Do we need to get people in to help us? You know, we've got incredible family and friends. There's opportunities outside the box of just having to do it on your own. Can the kids come to things? Do we have that flexibility? And we do just make it work. So we'll put a plan in place and have a conversation around what that looks like. And 9 times out of 10, it's achievable. It was at an agri-tech event that I spoke at a couple of weeks ago. And I did have a moment where I thought this is where people should think I don't have things together, because I was all out of my farm gear. And then I ended up going to the event after having to put the lambs back in. I had milk on my legs that I hadn't noticed. I was trying to brush it off, and then I had to go on stage and talk. I had Marmite on the back of my shirt from a 4-year-old, and I'd hidden that. The picture of me looked like I had it together. And I mean, the event was great. I really enjoyed speaking at it. And but the story to get there, it was a mess. I was almost late, and that's not a normal. That's, you know, it just happens. And then Fraser called, and one of our team was sick. He's like, you need to come home. And that wasn't the plan. He was meant to have the kids. I was like, yep, no, cool, the event's over. I don't need to stay for the rest of it. I'm on my way home from Hamilton, and I'll pick the kids up, and I will do that. So it's like, you just don't have to do it all yourself. You have people with you. You have people around. And when it seems really challenging, it is just a moment in time. It's not forever. And I think we remind ourselves of this. So let's just put it into perspective. It might be a tough week, but next week's a new week.
And you probably don't realise how often in that statement or in that conversation you said we. And I think that is a fantastic thing to focus on as well. You said, talking about yourself and Fraser, we had a conversation and we worked it out. And that comes back to that team strength. And even if it's not your full team, your asset managers, you and Fraser, you have worked it out how you're going to manage it. And then you're in a fit state to deal with the rest of your team. But having that first conversation with someone that you trust, work with, who understands you is such an important thing. I suppose it brings in the Farmstrong thoughts of not just talking about the issue, but listening to what the person is saying as well. You've got so much going on. How do you manage that workload? Again, is it your expectations and boundaries coming back into it? Your time management?
It's probably a bit of both. We've come out of calving now, so things kind of settle down, and I'm aware that I'm available more for events. There's a bit more flexibility in life. That kind of flex of who's doing what changes. So during calving, I know that Fraser's just full-time on the farm. I'm not full-time on the farm. I help out on farm, but I also obviously pick kids up and have other work within industry. But I just make sure that we're focusing, and he just doesn't have to worry. So I'm supporting him in that sense. And then it flips again, and he'll support me. So I'll start doing a few different things as we get into mating. We have an incredible team on farm that we've worked with over the last few years to have, again, that same ability where that communication's really key, understand where each other are at. There's that trust and built in communication. And then I'm fairly organised. So if anyone looked at my calendar, they'd probably want to vomit, but it is really, really organised. I put everything in there. It has my life, and I take it one step at a time. So it's, again, prioritising what's important and what's not. So most days I'll write down what I need to do, and I try not to overload myself. You only have so many hours in a day. So what's important today? Okay, this is what I need to achieve. This is what I'd like to achieve, but if I don't do it today, I'm not going to beat myself up. I can do it tomorrow. So it is setting that realistic expectation of myself, because I used to write a list and then think I needed to do it all in one day, but I don't, because nothing is going to fall over if it doesn't get done. There are things that will, so let's concentrate on that. I listened to a podcast. It might have been a TED talk actually a long time ago, and it was talking about how in the ER it was a green light, I'll probably get this wrong now, orange light, red light situation. What is your red light? And I guess that's your triage. Let's sort that. But anything else that's orange or green, just let's not put so much energy behind it if it can wait. So I've become really good at doing that. And I've also become really good at knowing, okay, if I'm picking our kids up, I want to know by 2:30 or 3 o'clock, sometimes I go to after school care, if I'm closing the laptop or if I'm heading off farm, I'm not thinking about the farm and I'm not thinking about work. My focus has shifted to my kids now, and I don't want them to have me half there because my mind's still on the farm. So we've got quite good at that too.
That's really interesting, because I was going to ask you how you avoid bringing the stress into family and home life, and that's how you do it. You have set the expectation and you have decided that your boundary is, I'm going for the kids, close the laptop, it's now family time, not farm time. Yeah,
it's a big one. One we didn't used to do very well. Living on farm's tough because you see it. It's right there every day.
Yes. You just see what you haven't done rather than what you have done. And you drive down your drive every day and you say, oh, I haven't done that yet. I haven't done that yet. And you go inside and you add it to your list. And that's such an unhealthy way of doing it, rather than thinking, wow, haven't we achieved a huge amount? And sometimes it just takes somebody else to say something to you, to say, wow, isn't it looking great? Rather than, oh, look at all the weeds. But, that again, that's life. So I think, Gerard, just a question for you. From a Farmstrong point of view, how important is rest and recovery for someone who's working on their own business?
It's massive. And actually, it's probably a bit counterintuitive to think that actually by slowing down and taking a break will be more productive, because there's a lot at stake, in people who are running their own business. And also the way the brain works is, if for things that we feel there's a bit of threat around what's at stake, adrenaline gets in there and we just have to keep going and going and going. And I loved what Amber said, thinking that we do a list and then think we have to achieve everything on that day. So the counterintuitive part is to say, actually, you will be more productive if you also have on your list some time just for you to reset or to refocus or to re-energize or to, make that transition from work to family, that there's maybe some little ritual, some small things. And I mean, even, Sam Whitelock says that the All Blacks don't train every day of the week because they know that actually if they're doing that, they're just going to burn themselves out. So I think the whole thing with looking after this asset, which is the mind and body, some of the habits that you need to develop are possibly a little bit counterintuitive for people who are hardwired to be busy. But I think the really good news is that actually what the science says is it's building in small regular habits into your day to top up your well-being is the solution. And actually that's really good news for very busy business people.
What do you do, Amber? Do you have a particular way that you switch off and look after yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. We are a very active family. We've got 2 young boys, so it's loud, it's active, there's lots going on. One of the things that we've just got back from a ski holiday in Queenstown, we make that a yearly event, and that is what we look forward to, gets us through calving, I guess. We're going skiing, we're going to get off farm. That's an investment to our family time. It's an investment to what we love to do. We love to snowboard. Calving does not sit within the snowboarding calendar, unfortunately. So we get down and that's our week. That's the week that we do. The other ones that we really focus on is I love to play netball. So that is a big thing for me to be able to get out and do. And then it's time with our family. So on the weekends or when we do have some time, we get off farm and we get out with our kids, and that fills our cup. It's not for everyone. And like Gerard said at the beginning, you've got to find out what works for you, but that's what works for us. We love heading to the beach. We love getting out with our kids. We're active, and we just like a different scenery. It helps us kind of clear the mind, freshen the soul, and just reconnect us a little bit too.
I love that.
Jo, on some themes I think that you've both touched on that from what other farmers have told me around, particularly some of those real simple little daily habits. Here, I think I'll just share a couple of real quick examples that some other farmers have and growers have shared with us. One farmer who was going through a lot of financial stress, when he was out shifting his fences in the paddock, he got into the habit of just stopping for 3 or 4 minutes and listening to the sound of the bellbirds. And he said it didn't solve his financial stress and pressure, but it reminded him what he loved about farming. And actually it brought him into the present. So it was what Amber was saying around choosing what you take notice of. And he said actually he felt better after just stopping and listening. And another farmer had exactly that same analogy that you used about as noticing all the weeds on your driveway that you haven't done. He had the same thing. Whenever he would drive down his driveway, he'd always look at the broken fence posts that he hadn't mended. And then he learned about through Farmstrong around the negativity bias that our brain is hardwired to pay more attention to negative things rather than positive things. It's sort of a survival instinct. It definitely has its place because historically, like genes that didn't take attention to the things that could kill them, they weren't going to be around long enough to breed new generations. So basically, but what he now does, he looks at the fence post that he has fixed and has an internal story that says, good on you, mate, you've been real busy lately, but you've actually fixed that fence post and that's great. Tick that off the list. So I think those are probably some of the simple things that we're promoting through Farmstrong, looking after the most important asset, which is your mind and body.
So, Gerard, I've got a few more questions for you, just because I'm interested to know how you think being Farmstrong helps prevent injuries and accidents on the farm. Is it that clarity of thought?
Yeah, totally. If your mind isn't on the job and you're around machinery or unpredictable stock, and if you're highly stressed where you're not focused on the present, you're maybe worrying, if you don't have ways of getting on top of some of that stress and pressure, we can internalize that, and actually it comes out through back pain, and that makes us more at risk. And even, what some of the stories that farmers have told us, that when they're not in that good headspace, they'll even do stuff they wouldn't normally do. Woman told us about, she was trying to get the calves into a pen, and she was on the quad bike, and one calf separated and ran past her, and she dived off the quad bike to tackle this calf.
Oh my God.
And ended up smashing her knee. And so she couldn't work for 3 months. And she said, I was under so much pressure to get those calves into that shed. It's just the way the brain works when we're under threat. Actually, not sleeping well is massive as well. And sometimes the things that keep us awake are the things we're worrying about. That's a mental skill around what are some of the habits, the things that work for you, so that you're protecting and putting some boundaries around the importance of sleep. And because actually, if you're turning up consistently not having slept well, then your fatigue levels are high risk of, accident and injury.
Amber, have you got some special tips or things that you would like to mention then before we sign off?
I think we live and breathe farming, and one of Farmstrong's lines is live well, farm well. So looking after yourself is so hugely important, but it can be challenging, especially when there's a lot of things outside your control. One of the things that we have worked on, and it definitely has taken time, was just be able to control the controllables and learn to work with what you can't. You can't lose sleep over things you can't control. So it's really counterproductive to lie there listening to the rain on the roof, knowing what might happen, but then you've not had a good sleep and you're heading out on farm tired with the inability to make better decisions if you weren't tired. It is a hard one to switch off, but we can't control the weather. We can't control the payout. We can't control many things. So let's just learn to control the controllables and work with everything else that happens. There's always a solution at the end of the day.
And I suppose it's about recognising which of your issues are controllable, isn't it? And again, leaving space in your brain for you to make the effort to actually think about that. Mental health is such a huge topic, a huge topic. And every example that you and Gerard have been talking about, I've had a picture in my mind every time of a different flower farmer who's been going through different things. And I find it inspiring that Farmstrong is available to everybody, inspiring that your story can make people aware of what they can do to help themselves. Because in a nutshell, that's what it is. It's a self-help channel to keep your asset, your brain, your mental health at a peak.
I talk a lot about Farmstrong. I'm a huge ambassador. I think it's hugely important within the primary sector. But it's also something to remember is that we are also human. So we live the Farmstrong values. We are human and we get things wrong sometimes. And it's really easy to beat yourself up when you haven't done the steps, or you know you should have done something differently. I should have gone to bed earlier, or I'm getting really tired and frustrated and I forgot to look after myself. Because I go through that. I'm still human. I don't have it right all the time. I think I'm able to come back from it a lot quicker than I would have without having these Farmstrong resources and values. We are human at the end of the day. So, just care for the ride.
That's a really lovely way to finish, Amber, because you're human, but take on one of those Farmstrong points of well-being, which is keep learning, and go to the Farmstrong website and see what is there and connect with your community. So I'm trying to think what the other connect is. Listen, connect, learn, be active. There's one more. What have I forgotten?
Take notice.
Take notice. Thank you. Really appreciate talking to you. And as Amber said, we're all human and we make mistakes. Just to prove that, we managed to lose Gerard for the last 5 minutes of the recording, and then I dropped my mic. But we Farmstrong through it all, and all is well. So a huge thanks to Amber, Gerard, and to Farmstrong for today's conversation. Until next time, petals, smile, be happy. Please follow along this season, as with the support of UFG, we can bring you flower farming in New Zealand. UFG, New Zealand's largest flower broker. Talk to them today about buying and selling your flowers.